Very much.
Mr Chair, I'll try to keep my comments brief as I can see the time racing by. Clearly, I will make some reference to Wales, but the issues are pertinent to all of us. This year, Welsh Government is introducing the new curriculum, which will have fully inclusive LGBT education for all pupils with no right to withdraw. And this is just so important. We've all stressed the status is important. We've stressed a proper timetable. We've all stressed proper training for teachers. And, of course, in regard of the Equality Act, or the protected characteristics, LGBT, all of those in the LGBT community should be given respect. And of course it's particularly important to learn how to relate, to learn how to cope with peer group pressure, to learn how to cope with bullying, and particularly homophobic and transphobic bullying. And materials which present society as it is, so that young children who come from same-sex couple homes don't feel that they're different or odd or whatever, but that's part of the curriculum, not just in relationship curriculum, but in the materials they use in all their subjects. But age appropriateness is important, and governors have the opportunity to look at the materials, and that is commonly done, and that I would have thought should be practiced across the board, and parents again to do the same, so that they can see exactly what's being presented. And I think it's really important to remember we don't live in a vacuum, and where in our day it was just whispers in the playground and it was nasty bullying. Now it's that whole range of stuff, including pornography, on the internet, plus, of course, massive bullying via the internet as well, through social media. So children are going to bring into schools, and I say this as an ex-secondary school teacher, you know, things that we might not even know the words for, quite frankly. And so teachers do need to be prepared, and they do need to be prepared to how you combat that and how you discuss it. So you need materials which are positive, down to earth, factual, no sensation. No, I won't give away because I'm so short of time, to be honest. Normally I would. And gradually, of course, you know, increasing the degree of explicitness as is age appropriate. But it is absolutely essential that those are taught in context, and that if children do raise issues about violent behaviour, about you know, different types of sexual behaviour, that teachers can talk through that, about the dangers, about the consequences, and that's a valid discussion. So talking about a particular piece of you know, material being on its own is not necessarily the context that it might be discussed in and taught in. And I'd just like to move on to the issue of trans individuals. Look, young people will know of or have encountered trans individuals. They have certainly heard about them, and they need to have clarity because there's so much transphobia out there. They need to have the topic talked about and discussed. It's perfectly valid in a school context. But the idea that any young person even actually begins to think about themselves as trans on a whim is fanciful. It's a very long way from even beginning to think like that to actually telling somebody, never mind going any further. And obviously, a teacher needs to know their limitations and knows that there needs to be professional help, professional counselling and professional intervention. It's not for them as a school to be making any decisions about a young person in that way. But I just think we need to emphasise that children are exposed all the time to all sorts of materials, and that it's absolutely right and proper that we, in a responsible way, inside schools, do listen, do take things seriously, do present down-to-earth factual alternatives to some of the stuff that they are being shown. So let's be clear about this. The overwhelming majority of schools and staff, parents, governors are highly responsible. And if there are instances where inappropriate things are used, then of course those are the things that need to be dealt with, not taking a sledgehammer to crack a nut. And what I would be very wary of is any rolling back on having progressive, fully inclusive LGBT education, which we can do, and we can call out individual problems that have occurred in individual schools with individual types of